Okay, welcome to the inaugural meeting of the Water Resources Management and Stormwater Utility Commission. I'm gonna take roll and then turn it over to you guys. We have Gebert, West, Knorr, Paniro, Bachhuber, and Wilkinson. We have a quorum. First item on the agenda is an election of chair.
I'd like to nominate Warren Gebert for chair of the commission.
Second?
I'll ask for discussion then. Anybody can ask for discussion?
Is there any discussion?
Any other
nominations? Nominations. Who calls the vote?
Any other nominations?
3 times you gotta ask.
Well,
Any other nominee? That's third. You gotta ask 3 times, don't you?
I don't know.
Yep.
Any
Robert
other
said so.
nominations? Any comments? Well, then I'll call a vote. Right?
Yep.
Yeah. All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Warren Gebert is the new chair.
Yep, thank you. So then I take over.
Yep.
Yep. Next item,
Sit back and relax.
next item of business selection of vice chair.
I would like to nominate Jim Bachhuber.
Second.
Do we have to do it 3 times? Yep.
I guess.
Any other nominations?
Nobody asked me if I wanted to do this.
Any other nominations? Any other nominations? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Congratulations, Jim.
Chair, don't I?
So next item of business is appointment of member to the Conservancy Land Commission. Who was our member before?
This is,
This is a
I'm
new
real
committee.
confused about this because,
Well, maybe I can talk about this first.
well, let me tell you my concern. When we go to two committees together, CLC was supposed to send a member here, and we would not be sending a member to CLC.
Well, it was, you guys approved a version of that ordinance where we were getting a member from PRFC. And then the last time you looked at it, you switched that to CLC.
You being the council you're talking now.
No, I mean,
You
this,
being committee.
I mean,
Okay.
water resources.
Okay.
Excuse me. So now we've ended up with a situation where this committee is gonna recommend somebody to CLC and CLC is gonna recommend somebody to this commission. So that's a separate issue of what we need to,
So
Determine
okay, because
tonight.
that was. CLC wasn't thinking that way, because
right, we were thinking the 2 committees were gonna combine
no,
and it turns out they're not, I think. So that's, meanwhile, Susan has been appointed to CLC directly by the mayor.
yeah,
And I've talked about this with Kevin, who's the new staffer for CLC. He says there are other people waiting to be on CLC. So bottom line is, if there's no one on this committee aside from Susan who wants to serve on CLC, then it might make sense that we appoint Susan to CLC and she resigns her direct appointment and lets somebody else come onto that committee. And then we'll get an appointment from them next week regardless,
can
but
we,
it won't be
yeah.
Susan in any case.
I think we need to have the attorneys look at what the actual ordinance is for the committees.
Well, we have that.
Because that certainly wasn't what I was told by the council member.
We can try to revise the ordinance to make this a PRFC member.
No,
That's
wasn't
gonna
what we
take
wanted.
time. That wasn't what you wanted the last time you looked at it.
Susan, is there an objection to what Eric is recommending, at least posing, that you would be appointed from this committee to be the rep on CLC.
I was under the impression when we combined the two, that would go away. And we would only have a member from CLC coming to this committee.
But the ordinance for CLC didn't change. And there's another
That's
minor
true.
issue about
Okay, we need
The way
to then
that's
to
written.
get that ordinance changed then.
and
to
Matt
fit.
Fleming's already looking at that, but for tonight, I had proposed we just kind of ignore this language that it's an appointment from Water Resources and make the appointment. And if Matt Fleming doesn't like it, we can not do that.
And Lisa?
Can I suggest that we defer action on an appointment? One motion, and then another motion recommends that the element committee revise the prepare revised ordinance.
Right.
Because to me, the bigger issue, I mean, we have an issue right now with membership, but it's also a concern that we have CLC appointing some having liaison to this commission and us having one right back. That's an
Yeah.
oversight, clearly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That was the other
makes
side.
sense. Seems redundant.
Right.
So
The
what's-
intent
what you
is just to
suggest,
have a
Lisa?
link.
I don't know.
I'm suggesting that we I'll move to defer action on the appointment of a liaison to CLC until our next meeting. And then I would make a second motion to refer the ordinance to the CLC part of the ordinance and,
To reflect.
yeah, refer that to LNO to come up with the change.
Actually,
That would be separate. First, we would vote on.
You second it?
I would like to say the CLC entire ordinance probably needs to be rewritten because it has really clearly stated people with various backgrounds. We haven't been getting those for years.
Yeah.
And so CLC needs to get,
Can our commission
Yeah,
refer
that's
that, or
not
that
for us.
CLC needs to refer it?
CLC needs to
Make that recommendation
Yeah.
referral.
And that's a CLC issue, not.
yeah,
Right.
that's not an issue for here. But it does
That's
need to
gonna
get
take-
changed.
So right now, we're just tabling this
Yeah, postponing it until the
topic.
next.
And we still may get a member from Parks then
Well-
too?
No,
No,
Okay,
unless we change this ordinance.
yeah. Okay,
no, it's,
so we have a motion and a second on, we had two motions, is that right, Lisa?
Well, the first motion and the only one that's on the floor now is to postpone this action until our next meeting, say. In case something comes up.
I second.
And we second that. So all in favor?
I,
Aye, oppose, motion's carried.
And who seconded? I'm sorry.
I did.
Jim did.
Thank you.
Then Lisa had a second motion.
yeah, the second motion, I move to ask the LNO committee refer the I haven't gotten used to the acronym yet.
Yeah, right.
The
Yes, you-
WRMSUC ordinance to LNO
it should also go to CLC.
and CLC.
It should go to CLC first so they can have their input.
Yeah. Which one meets first, do you know?
CLC meets next week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
LNO is done for the month.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry.
let me go back. I didn't finish the motion, so there was no second. I move to refer the ordinance for this commission to CLC and to LNO for review and possible changes to our liaison relationship with CLC.
Second.
Do we want to make a recommendation of how we think it should be adjusted?
I think we can
I
discuss
thought
that.
we
and-
already did that when we combined, we had the recommendation that CLC should send a member to Water Resources.
To this committee?
Mhm. That's what I was,
That is what
yeah,
that's how our chunk of chapter 2 is written,
right,
that we're receiving a member from CLC.
CLC. Instead of us sending a member from here to CLC.
All right,
With
that's-
the reason being, CLC lands have so many of the stormwater facilities on them. CLC needs to have someone that will represent those interests.
Your motion got a second, right, from Grace?
Yeah,
Mhm.
And if that happens, and if that occurs and CLC does refer or appoint someone to this group. That fulfills our 7 and then we're full, right? Then we are. Meeting the ordinance and everything else. So, am I understanding that right?
Mhm. And if we don't send a liaison from this commission to CLC. I know CLC might have a concern about having 8 members.
Yeah.
I heard that being talked about last night. That could solve that problem. If there's no
Right.
liaison from this commission. And I think it makes more sense, we've had Bike and Transit and Public Works, we talked about this too, how it might make more sense if we really want to elevate Ped Bike and Transit issues in the Public Works Committee. The liaison should come from that Ped Bike and Transit, not the other way around. Same thing here, if we really want to make sure that conservancy issues are front and center, it makes more sense to have our liaison come from them instead of us sending them there.
Okay.
That's.
so it ends up, if everything goes away, we're talking about, this will be our committee.
+1.
Plus one, because they will, someone say something here.
So it'll be 8
Well-
and not 7.
It depends on,
1, 2, 3.
But David's not
Six,
on the committee right now.
7. It's not a committee.
I'm a ghost.
yeah,
Oh,
and I'm been
okay.
appointed to CLC as a CLC member.
So we're assuming then you get appointed.
No, but are you
At
on
this-
CLC?
No.
At this point.
Are you
Yeah.
on CLC?
I'm assuming.
Okay.
In parks.
Okay.
I'm sure they're not fighting over it. Okay,
Susan, I thought you was part of this. Informal arrangement was that you were going to then excuse yourself from CLC? Because you could be liaison to CLC.
Last year, I was the liaison to CLC.
Right?
I have now been appointed to CLC as an actual member. And I was told by David Lorman as then the representative from CLC to here. And the council had approved that,
That's not what.
which I
Apparently some
don't know.
misunderstanding on that part, right?
But
There's apparently some misunderstanding about CLC appointment. To this commission of yourself.
yeah, we haven't voted on that yet.
I think
David
she
Lorman was,
spoke.
as chair, was reporting it as a done deal.
Well,
Yeah.
haven't voted.
Yeah, that,
That happens next week.
I don't see how that could have happened because council doesn't, it's the committees that make the liaison.
And maybe he was over interpreting the appointment of me to CLC.
Could be.
is there any more discussion? If not,
You want to repeat the motion, please? Yeah, please.
Refer, excuse me, to CLC. Refer ordinance to CLC. And LNO. I think in that order based on the timing. For review possible changes to the ordinances to make them correct.
What also needs to be in there is we're saying refer our ordinance to CLC, but CLC also needs to
Uh,
redo
Our
theirs.
motion can't,
We can't make that motion.
they gotta figure that out on their own.
So-
CLC could make a motion for that,
Yeah,
Yeah,
get that in the agenda.
right.
I will call Kevin tomorrow.
So was the motion good?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, for here.
So- Well, that I have it recorded right to get it in the minutes correct. And then Grace seconded it, and then I didn't record a vote. I wasn't sure if you had.
okay, all in favor?
Uh,
Aye, opposed, motion's carried.
I may have missed it. I just was writing, trying to,
There was
No, we didn't vote.
okay.
until now. The next item of business is the stormwater utility referendum, and Eric could fill us in on that. It happened last night.
Well. I guess, first off, it was version 2.
Two A now.
Version 2 is generally what was passed, a modified version of it and crafted mostly by Alder Haniro.
Well, the edits to version 2. I didn't write. most of
Correct,
it, yeah.
the edits. And the bottom line is, council approved moving forward using a starting ERU rate of $92, which is what the study recommended. And then it also gives us the freedom to adjust the fee rate without going back to revenue future. And they did not refer it back to us. But that doesn't mean we can't have
It's just the wording that's gonna go on the ballot.
No.
this is the resolution in front of you and it
But
includes
that's-
the ordinance or the referendum language, which is
That's what'll go on. the
Shall the
ballot.
city of
right
Middleton?
here. Both the question itself, and then there's this explanation section that gets to go on the ballot. It's all captured here.
So are we gonna, can we make some recommendations back to the council or no?
They didn't ask you for any.
No.
They don't need to do anything.
They don't.
We're just-
Well, number one, stormwater utility, there is no per se stormwater utility, is there? Not if we combined them? Is a stormwater utility a
There's
subset?
still a stormwater
It's a
utility.
subset of this committee.
Nope.
It's a utility.
It's utility.
It's an enterprise fund.
Yeah.
This committee has now taken over oversight of the stormwater utility
Okay,
It's
Fine.
equivalent to the water
instead of
utility
SWEP.
for drinking water. Because there's a city water utility.
And sewer sanitary.
So. The resolution is still just the one sentence, right? Shall the city of Middleton, blah, blah, blah.
The referendum question.
Referendum, excuse me. Does this? Give the authority to revise rates based on council, that's down below, it says, subject to resolution by the council and the explanation. Right?
I think I see what you're asking is that question phrased sufficiently to make sure that we can always update the fees
As needed.
based on the new study. That is a question for Matt Fleming to
Yeah,
check before it goes on the ballot. But that is what the intention is, because there's no amount mentioned, and it refers to the fee being adequate to fund the city's stormwater management program
Right.
and to maintain compliance.
Right. And I mean, I think the explanation down below covers, if people read it, they would get the whole story. But I guess it's a question for, man, like you said.
Also a question for the council if they want to mention the price, because, they're the ones that have to defend it when someone gets upset.
Well, that's the problem. If you mention the price, I think it might appear that that's going to be the fee.
forever.
Right.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah, so maybe it might be worth Eric specifically checking with Brian and Matt to make sure that the question is phrased.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm assuming it is because, but
You gotta crack at it before.
yeah.
Okay. I mean, clearly, the explanation says in the last sentence. Determines that through a study by engineering and subject to approval by resolution to common council.
Yep.
That's,
yeah.
that.
But
doesn't
it's
seem
still-
ambiguous.
It's a little bit vague in terms of when you go vote and you don't know anything about water resources or stormwater and you start reading this. you're going to be confused. And it's not stating it as clearly as it could be of, as the city needs to, they can raise the rate without having to go to referendum.
That counts. We don't need to go back to referendum every time a nickel of our
Yeah,
rate has to go
with
up or
this
down.
passing. Without this, we do.
Yes, Understood. So, okay.
I see, Lisa, you added we had discussion last week between Jim, Eric and me about that, and I see you added about that multifamily and triplexes and duplexes, and I raised a concern that majority of people, residents now live in apartments in Middleton.
Mhm.
So we don't really address that very well. I guess
Well,
multifamily
That's
does.
multifamily.
Right.
When
But
the-
are they gonna understand the one ERU? No, I don't think they are,
Uh,
because they don't know what they're voting for.
so we've got to do that. We had this issue come up when we did the first one. And Jim Wexler was really concerned about it as the alder representing all the apartment buildings. Once I was able to explain to him that we would calculate the ERU based on impervious surface for the apartment buildings, and that some of those are 2 and 3 stories for each individual renter, it becomes a very small amount.
I understand that, but how would a voter gonna look at it?
Well,
They're gonna
that's,
go there and they know what they're voting for?
this is where when I worked with the Friends to do all the publicity that was sent out, it was made clear.
How are you gonna send out publicity?
The Friends did,
And to what? Not,
to all the residents.
Multiple ways they can,
There's
so they got all the address, every apartment owner will get, every renter. will get-
every resident will
if,
get,
if the renter's not getting a water bill, the neighbor will get a stormwater bill either. They don't see it.
they don't.
Well,
even
no, but
see
they're
it.
gonna, that's what's gonna happen, but they're gonna vote.
Yeah, but this is where we
And
work,
they know what they're voting for, that's the question.
and what I'm
You're saying
saying,
is,
with the Friends, we made that clear.
Well, that's.
Or clear enough
Every
to get it.
individual, no, I
No.
can say, no, they won't.
no,
I
but
think the question is, what are you using for a mailing list?
I don't remember what we did. It was back in
Water
2014.
utility, the what, then that's not gonna cover.
We use,
No.
we use social media, we use,
They used a lot of
public
different,
meeting, we had other meetings, we had, letters to the editor. We had information brochure that the city has drafted,
Yeah.
which is helpful.
the brochure is gonna go out with a water bill, is that?
Well, it can be distributed.
it can be
other ways.
distributed
Could go
to,
to
You can post it in the
anyone who
library.
wanted to. I mean, attaching it to a utility bill is a simple thing, but we can expand the reach.
it can be.
Well, apartment owners, renters don't get the utility bill,
Right,
so
that
they
doesn't-
don't see
That
it.
doesn't cover the people you're talking
No.
about.
And that
What I'm
is, that is the majority, I mean, it's a lot more apartment people now than were in 2014.
That is true, but I think with the Friends handling the publicity, and they're clearly willing to do that.
And if you've got
We can-
ideas on how to help,
No, I don't,
Yeah.
no,
okay,
And
no.
I volunteered to
Well-
help them.
Some wording potentially, but I guess then it might be confusing too.
you can't, yeah, that's the problem. The more words you put on there,
Yeah,
the harder it is to understand.
I think
Or the less it'll get read,
Yeah.
more.
because I
let the
look at it.
Friends
crap,
work a
I'm-
little bit on it and come back with publicity. We've got between now and November, 1st of October. I think,
I don't know when that information has to be on a ballot.
It has to, I think end of August is when we need. to
yeah,
finalize
that's
the
what's gotta
language
be
and Send it to the
wording on
county.
the ballot. I'm talking about the publicity to explain this to citizens.
All you can do is. I mean, the Friends do have a public relations person
Mhm.
actually on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Hey,
And you helped on it before,
yeah,
and I did. And I don't remember who some of the other,
Deb Weitzel did,
yeah,
a lot of people did.
And it-
The graphic that just shows impervious area and then impervious area with 3 apartments underneath it for 3 stories, dividing the cost by 3.
It's
Just
still
a
not
simple
gonna
picture.
tell that individual how that affects him. I own an apartment, no, I don't own any, but if I rented an apartment, I'm gonna look at that and say, well, how much is my rent gonna go up?
Right.
Because it is,
yeah,
and there's no way to define it individually.
No.
You can't.
because each apartment building, the
It's
5-story buildings
Yeah,
are going to be less of an effect than the 2-story.
Yeah.
But we've got to figure out a way of convincing them
To vote yes.
to vote yes.
I think this. The main emphasis last time was on protecting Pheasant Branch, the Conservancy, water quality and flood
Right.
control.
Mhm.
Mhm.
That's.
But that doesn't come across in on the ballot.
I can't, the ballot
The
can't,
ballot
The
can't do
ballot,
it. Yeah, I
the
know.
ballot
Can't do it.
can't
Yeah, I
do
know.
it. I
You
mean,
got
it's
him.
gotta be this short
other
legal.
information avenues have to
Yeah.
try to.
And I think our big issue, just from the previous one, in terms of who on council voted for it and who didn't, was all the districts north of Century Avenue and east of Allen. 1, 2, and 3 voted against it
You talking about in 2014?
in 2014 on council.
That has nothing to do with it.
No, but what I'm saying is,
Okay.
this is the mentality of how they think of stormwater. Because in those 3 districts, they're not seeing stormwater features other than the little drain hole at the curb.
But they still get flooded.
Now that we've had the flood, that changed a lot. They were much more willing, it was a 75% approval rate for the flood part.
Was it 2014 during a general election or the spring election?
It was a fall.
It was a fall one too,
It was a fall.
a presidential election.
I
Fourteen was not-
don't think so. I think it was spring.
16 was.
Yeah.
What? So I'm talking about 16.
It wasn't a presidential for sure.
No,
And it might have been a spring election.
But this one, we're probably getting a much better turnout. Because
You
it's
get a better
president-
turnout, but that doesn't necessarily mean how people will vote. The
No,
really
but,
committed voters vote in the spring.
It was November 4th.
What's November 4th?
2014.
Was the fall.
Yeah,
Probably, yeah, that makes sense.
Staff could tease out statistically, the average apartment fee.
Although I think there's a lot of apartment owners that have just raised their rent just because they could, not because they had to. Therefore, there's some wiggle room and they probably don't want to take off their residents more than they have to. And if they have to eat another $25 a resident per year, rather than try to explain that,
You think.
there's no other reason.
No, they'll use it as an excuse to raise it 100 residents.
There's more demand than supply right now.
That's the
Right.
question. What do they feel about that? And they're gonna raise their rent however they can, regardless of stormwater fees.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so what were you saying, Eric? You could tease out how much it would cost per apartment?
well, it's going to depend on,
that'd be a gross of averaging of everything.
Yeah.
It would be a gross averaging. We could, give more statistics. Here's the worst one we can find in the city. Here's the, the highest, the lowest, the average, the median.
I mean.
And that wouldn't become a part of this referendum.
No.
No, it'd be part of the informational materials that we make available.
Apartments, maybe a half a ERU or.
I think
Not
it
even
probably
that.
needs to be
Could
done
be a
by
depends.
Yeah,
this apartment, it would be this as an example where it's a 2-story high building versus this for a 5-story high building.
yeah, no, so.
Because it will be much less for the people in the 5-story high building.
Eric, did you, the draft of the information piece you sent out, you did make some revisions, what I saw. Some revision was that right? You've been working on that?
Yeah, it's been revised several
Good. No,
times.
that's-
It needs more work.
Yeah, but it was good.
Are you accepting comments on it?
Absolutely.
When do you need that to go out? Because I know the city, there are some restrictions on what the city can do. I was just thinking, we have billboard space now.
And
Is it unacceptable?
I don't know the parameters of that, but that was brought up by Brent a month or two ago. You've
I
got,
didn't know this. At the Adams sign, is, the agreement, is the city has some time on there?
But I don't know, we'd have to check with, again, with Matt and make sure that the city, let's say the city didn't have anything to put up in October, but the Friends wanted to use our space to put up, vote yes, on stormwater.
As we all know with like lotteries, you can't advertise for lottery, it's gonna be. You should know.
Yeah. Just information.
Just the fact.
Yeah, that's, but if that's, if that space is for rent, that could be a different thing.
Yeah.
Get me started.
But it may not be either.
Well, I might be.
I have a question. Do we need to explain what institutional is? For the average citizen?
Not in that language,
Where's that appear?
in the pink.
Yeah,
Oh,
because the average citizen isn't going to get that, that's the city of Middleton. The
Yeah, but
school
if you
board.
add you'd add 2 paragraphs to explain what's the difference between institutional, industrial, and commercial.
What I'm talking about is explaining it to when this is for information for helping the friends explain it. Commercial and industrial, I think people get, but what's in the institutional, which is churches, the school board, the city, the airport,
that's it.
that needs
Tax exempt properties
tax exempt
that
property.
have impervious area.
Yes,
Just grass, you don't get charged.
right.
Well, I think that's why the language saying all other properties.
Yeah.
Was sort of in there, because we had this debate last night. It's in the ordinance, which probably should be updated. In the ordinance, it refers to residential and non-residential. And I was like, my brain just doesn't work thinking of non-residential property, including multifamily buildings. That's,
Because it's
that's a
zoning
poor
based, right?
choice there.
It was zoning based
Right,
language.
yeah.
Yes, that's a problem.
Well, that's very common
Yes,
Yeah,
for
Yeah.
stormwater.
yes, it is. But again, people don't think that residential includes apartments.
Yeah.
It's not.
I don't think we can address every potential pitfall for this resolution. I think we can identify the big things that hopefully the friends can emphasize, which is the conservancy, protecting the conservancy, protecting our enormous property value, in our business park and elsewhere. The fact that we will still be below most of our peer cities, I really don't think that's a point of pride. For folks in Middleton as well, homeowners, to know that McFarland and Pittsburgh and Monona are all smoking us.
Do they have the same flood risks that Middleton does as well? Just
Well-
based on geography and.
That's a great question, because I've wanted to get, and I don't know if staff can get this, but what's how much, how many dollars per conservancy land acre do we charge, are we proposing to charge versus our peers? Because I think we have more.
I looked,
Conservancy land.
you asked, I don't know if
Yeah.
it was from the committee of the whole or a later meeting. And I looked into the data. I didn't feel entirely comfortable with it. For the sister cities, you have to kind of throw out Fitchburg, because the environmental corridors are only drawn within urban service areas, sewer watersheds. So much of Fitchburg is still rural, and they actually have
They have two.
like 2 tiers of storm
Right.
rates.
it's the whole township.
But what I came up with, percent of acreage taken by environmental corridor, Sun Prairie 25.5%, Monona 40.4%, Verona 29.1, McFarland 24.1, Middleton 23. So all comparable, but Middleton does not stand out as
How are
having.
you defining environmental corridor?
Carpsey has a layer. So it's easily-
Storm without 2 inches of water.
Ice.
I guess what I'm saying is, for Middleton, I can see it going from the airport where
Surface level.
North Fork comes in
I'm
all the
thinking-
way to the lake. But do those other
Does.
cities have portions of that environmental corridor that are true recreational areas
In there.
at the same level as our conservancy? And that's what citizens are going to be interested in.
No, the environmental corridors
It is
include steep slopes,
Yeah, and
waterways, wetlands.
but for selling it to citizens, it's the parkland that they feel so passionate about, that's gonna be their concern.
I was gonna make a request there, just a little bit of a different slant here. If you would put together or at least provide how much federal, state and local money has gone into restoration work since 2018 on the entire corridor and all the stuff that's been on, how much have we invested in our conveyance system?
Yes,
We want to protect that investment.
right.
That I don't know what the number is. I know we got federal money. I know we got some
Yeah.
state money, I think. I know we got local money.
Right. Well, the other thing that
And you
we,
just mean post flood restoration?
Yeah, I mean, since 2018.
For flood restoration.
I'm sorry.
The money, you're talking about the money we invested in flood restoration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Repairing the police station, detention basin,
we spent a lot.
Well, one thing, Middleton probably has stormwater, more stormwater management facilities than other ones, communities have,
Mm.
and that's what originally was for, like dredging, Confluence Pond, South Pond. And, I doubt if any other community has as many as we do, they have to maintain.
I'm not sure of that. I'm not.
Of
But
the
the Confluence
smaller
Pond dredging
communities.
is huge, and we
Yeah.
also dredge Lake Mendota.
Yes, I get that, but
I don't think these other communities have the formal structures.
I
that
can't
we're
just shoot from the hip
talking
and say
about.
that's true.
That are in public
Yeah,
domain.
right.
I designed ponds in Verona and I guess Verona and Wanakee, but there's a lot of.
Is it city owned?
Yeah,
Is there an online pond on Badger Mill Creek that's, where?
It's got a side channel,
Side.
yeah,
Yeah.
by City Hall there. So it's a big expensive thing.
I think what Warren's pointing out with Confluence is that most of the sediment we're capturing and then paying to dredge out is not our
I
sediment
see,
Yes.
I see.
upstream.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's certainly a case, yeah.
I think the other thing that we need to include, I mean, we're focusing on floods. But the other big important thing is cleaning up the water that is going into the lake. And that there are federal guidelines that require that.
There are guidelines.
Or, no, they're not. They're federal laws, and we need to make it as laws.
Guidelines.
And Susan, that is in the question, maintain.
It's in the question, but I think when we work with the Friends, that needs to be equally important
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
And that the other thing is every single person that lives in the city of Middleton is contributing stormwater and potentially polluting it when they don't sweep up the grass clippings in the gutter even. They don't necessarily think about that. I've got a neighbor that puts, I don't know how many different nasty chemicals in their garbage can and washes it in the driveway that goes straight into the drain. And I mean, that's illicit discharge.
so where does this leave us? We want to put something on the agenda for July or August, so we could talk about it again, or make recommendations.
I think we need to let the Friends get busy real quickly.
But we can review what the city is gonna, we have the draft from the city's
Yeah.
information piece, and we can comment on that next time.
Okay, so we'll put it on the agenda again for next meeting.
Yeah,
And again, they are more restricted on what they can say and how they say it and all that. I get that. They,
Gary,
we,
So if there's no other discussion in that item.
do
What's
you
that?
need any action on this from this commission?
Not tonight. If you want to make recommendations about, information and communications that we're gonna do, you certainly can.
No, I'm talking specifically this item. This is what's on the agenda.
well, the
Council,
one recommendation I heard was to verify legally that that language allows the city council to make decisions
Yeah.
on
Yes.
rates.
You know,
So do you need a motion on that?
I would make that motion.
I think Susan just made a motion.
Is there a second?
You're requesting staff to verify with
Yeah, with the
staff,
city
legal
attorney
city attorney,
that,
that language covers that
Right.
desire.
I'll second.
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Opposed, the motion's carried.
before you go on vacation. Oh, yeah, I want to add that as a thing.
Where'd you?
yeah, because before the Friends can start working, we need the final language going before the,
I think they can do a lot of stuff before.
they can do, but that really would help.
I think to get the wheels moving, and I hope they do. I'm talking to Ken, you're talking to Ken, so it's good.
Do you have any of those materials from the first one?
Mhm. Yeah,
Could you send those to me?
nope, yes. It's a secret, yes.
I'll come
Okay,
down and bang
so-
on your door.
Last item of business then is items for future meetings, and I've talked to Eric before about putting salt runoff back on the agenda for July. If that's okay with you, Eric, I think we've got a few things to talk about.
Do you foresee any new subdivision, new division, new development type proposals that we need to look at? I know we're not reviewing them, but at least be aware of.
The things that I'm aware of for next month, there'll be a fee in lieu request for development in John Q. Hammond's and Greenway Boulevard. Former ponds, buildings. It's two like 3-story buildings that straddle
Oh, that
tiny little kettle.
Yeah.
That's up for redevelopment.
Good one, then.
We may be talking about flood information that's coming from Madison, if our consultants can work on that ahead of next month.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I may bring an option to you for the Spring Hill Pond. And ask for a recommendation on whether or not we should build a new storm sewer connection out of that pond. And then budget.
Can I add one thing? I would like to see this committee discuss the fees in lieu of in terms of the amount that we're charging. Because I don't think that's been raised.
No.
How many years? And I'm concerned that we're going to have it of people will be asking to do fees in lieu of because it's simply cheaper than putting in a facility.
Without a doubt.
But remember, we only allow fees in lieu when they're exempt from infiltration.
Yeah, but we still need to be getting.
That's
up
fine.
to date.
I just want everybody to understand it. It's not a gimme.
Yeah,
It's,
It's a deniable request.
I have a couple of, we can put these on the list. First of all, just given all the development and the emphasis that public comments have had on stormwater and what I think is maybe a misunderstanding of how stormwater is managed or how it's affected when there's development. I wonder if this body could work with our communications director to come up with some FAQs, just to have something to point to. So we don't have to, so council members and plan commission members aren't in the position of having to say, well, you're wrong, you know, it's much better to be able to say, well, look at this. Yeah, we developed an FAQ because this is a question that comes up all the time. Also, I know that the folks in Misty Valley are very interested in Graver Pond, that project, and the Misty Valley culvert project.
The outlet for it.
Yep, and recognizing that Bell Farm is going in and that Parmenter is being redone. And also that there's very likely to be some action on the Ziegler property. I'm wondering, yeah, it seems to me like those projects will be delayed. So I'm wondering if can we have a discussion about what might be doable in the near term for those residents who are very concerned about flooding?
Specific to the Mystic Valley
Specific to
system.
Graver, yep. Mhm. We can't discuss it because these are only just ideas to put on a future agenda, but that would be my request. And then also, were there minutes last time?
No,
From the,
No, okay.
this is inaugural, so there is no.
Oh, okay.
it was, yeah,
That explains it.
There are minutes from the former committees,
Yep.
which we essentially don't have a way to approve.
it should have been adjourned, signed, die, but yeah.
They're out there.
So is your, Lisa's request on Graber's Pond, you know, that outlet is still, where do we stand on that?
We can't talk about that tonight.
It's sitting on my
Yes.
desk.
Yeah. So that's,
But there's a lot of things that happened, maybe that Alder is not aware of in her absence. I mean, it was studied and,
Can't talk about it now.
it's neither here nor there, but
Yeah.
the other night I went out to the recycle center right when that storm was taking place. And right at the peak of it, and there was so much dirt blowing around from Bell Farms that I could hardly see the road. I mean, I haven't been by there, so I was amazed at how it's transformed. That wind gust of 60 miles an hour just played havoc with dirt flying around. It actually moved my car up, and I don't know what I was doing out there. I wasn't aware that the storm was coming through.
Bad timing.
Bad timing, yeah. And we talked to Grace about you making a presentation at some time on your study you're doing on Tiedemann's and Stricker's Pond. I don't know when that would fit in for you or our agenda.
Not July, but otherwise, that's fine.
Okay,
what, is there an estimate, Grace?
I'm fine to do it, I can follow up with you,
Yeah, that's
through
fine.
email. Okay.
That's fine.
There's still information being collected or?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I see the brick when I clean out the inlet. Or outfall, I'll really look at it.
So yeah, Eric, I get, one of the topics will be this, hopefully next month, but maybe whatever about this stuff with City of Madison's modeling Pleasant Branch work and impacts on us. Okay, maybe Steve will have some information for us then. Steve. Or
Oh, I just thought of one more thing to add to the list, and that is it next week that the Springfield Stormwater
oh,
meeting is gonna take place, so we should probably give a brief report on what happens at that. This is the work group that never really got off the ground before. There's been a lot of changes in Springfield, but it's
and I'm just on that committee and representing commission, I guess.
and I'm their counsel.
That is,
That's Wednesday, I believe.
what are we here?
Wednesday at 2 in Springfield.
Wednesday next week, is that what that is?
Mhm.
5th?
But
Oh, yeah, got it.
okay, if nothing else, meeting's adjourned.
thank you.
6:40.
Thanks, Warren.